Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, cybernetic beings sent back from the future to save and or kill Sarah and or John Connor or Danny Ramos. Those that don't tick any of the boxes above. Welcome to Life Lessons with Crazy Uncle Dick. The following episode is recorded by an adult using adult language. If you don't like explicatives and invectives, you might want to pass on this episode. Thank you in advance. Howdy, folks. So, teased a little something a little bit earlier today. Figured I would go ahead and make sure that I follow through on it. Don't know how long I will sit and ramble about it tonight, but we will do what we will do. So, earlier today, I saw that Guillermo del Toro is doing something with Frankenstein. Frankenstein is a product that is very near and dear to his heart. It's actually one that's very near and dear to mine as well. So I'm interested to see how it's going to go. I'm wondering if he's going to stay closer to the old Mary Shelley book, or if he's going to venture off like more recent properties have done in recent times. Frankenstein is one of those weird properties that a lot of people keep trying to do a lot of tweakage with. And the monster or the creature, however you want to call him, Adam, depending on what property you've seen him from and seen him through, is a very interesting creature that goes very hand in hand with the way that a lot of social mores go for today. It's someone who has been wronged by the system. They've been abandoned. They've been thrown away. They've been kicked. They've been pushed away. And they end up going to a very dark place and being a very dark thing because no one has bothered to give them a chance. So, being the fat, smart kid, that kind of resonated with me. Didn't help that I was taller than a lot of my classmates to begin with. So there's that aspect of Frankenstein's creature that plays into everything as well. So, here you got this large individual that can very easily hurt another living being just by not being mindful. So Frankenstein's monster lives in a cardboard world of his own, and until his brain starts kicking in and he's able to start learning and watching and observing the world around him and wanting to be part of that world, things just take a very dark turn. Things go very wrong. So there's a lot of not understanding the world that's around you because you're not of that world. So the creature was very much a man on the outside that never got a chance to come to the inside. And that was a lot of my young life. So it's Frankenstein's monster and werewolves have always been my two favorite pieces of horror to come back to time and time and time again. And we'll talk about werewolves in a future episode. Tonight, we're going to stick mostly to talking about the creature. And there's been just a ton of different reimaginings and re-envisionings of the monster over time. Um, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Robert De Niro, was a very good take on it. Very interesting um, way of looking at things. Um, uh, James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe in, I believe they called it Victor Frankenstein. That was another good take on the whole Frankenstein story as well. Um, Frankenstein, the college years, a cheesy Fox movie um, from the 90s was pretty good. So again, the monster for Frankenstein has been reimagined time and time again. I Frankenstein, that was another really good take. I really enjoyed the take that they used with I Frankenstein. But the fact that one of the foremost horror, not necessarily horror, monster movie directors in Guillermo del Toro is doing a Frankenstein movie is really intriguing to me. Now it looks like it is going to be for Netflix, so looks like there's two reasons for me to go ahead and get Netflix back now. Um, uh, they're doing something with a property for Gamera, one of my favorite monsters of all time, and then of course they're doing, like I said, this Frankenstein with Guillermo del Toro at the helm. There's not a lot of information out about it right now, other than Oscar Isaacs and Andrew Garfield are supposed to be um, uh, signing on and said yes to doing something. Their parts are being kept very secretive. Um, and some chick with the last name of Goth, who I guess is a up and coming scream queen, is supposed to be playing Dr. Frankenstein's love interest. So I guess that could be interesting for folks who know who this young lady is. But I'm really hoping to see a Frankenstein that is a lot closer to Mary Shelley's book than the theatrical versions that are out there. So one of the big things that I always nitpick is in the book, Frankenstein is inspired by lightning as a child, but that's as far as lightning really went. Lightning and electricity didn't take as much of a part in the creation of the creature as alchemy did. And because of him having to create everything by hand, basically, he creates a giant. And he's not really grave robbing in the book. But it's going to be really interesting again to see which way they go with it. So starting with the movies, they shy more away from the ideals of right and wrong, good and evil being part of a social construct where the monster is learning good, learning evil, um, because nobody is willing to love him, he cannot feel love. Therefore, he, becomes more monstrous. Where in many of the movies, the thing is that Frankenstein was supposed to be created using this normal brain. And then, because of the way this normal brain works, everything would have been fine. And he would have been just a perfectly normal being. But the fact that something happens, the good brain gets destroyed, damaged irreparably, and then they end up having to go with this abnormal brain, this criminal brain. And then in those movies, Professor Waldman explains how the criminal mind is formed differently, and therefore there is a physical difference between normal good brains and abnormal criminal brains. So that it's this abnormal criminal brain, when put into the monster, that creates everything for Frankenstein's creature becoming this vile, evil monster, if you will. So it's interesting going from Shelley's original imagination to which was late 1800s, 1880s or something like that, and then looking in the 1930s when they started doing the Frankenstein's features, how different things looked, and how going from the late 1800s to the almost middle of the 20th century, how much of a difference society had to make changes to the story as such. So it's hard to believe in that short of a period of time. So, like I said, I think it was the 1880s to the 1930s. So you're looking 50-ish years as far as things go, and they made that much of a change in thinking. And then I'm also betting that it might have had something to do with the way that Mary Shelley had originally envisioned things, and a woman, progressive female thinker of the late 1800s, how she saw things versus probably male studio executives in the 1930s. So I'm wondering how much that played into things as well. But I'm really looking forward to the movie moving further along. I'm looking really forward to seeing something come of it. I would love to see the trailers once they actually get to the point where they're actually filming things and are starting to form those. Because again, this is a property I'm really vested in on two levels. One being a great lover of the Frankenstein mythology, and also being a great lover of Guillermo del Toro's works. He is truly a visionary when it comes to the creation of monsters and things of that. He's worked on The Strain. He's worked on the original two Hellboy movies, The Shape of Water. The man has a penchant for monsters and for just beautiful, otherworldly, almost fey, dark imaginings of things. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he tackles Frankenstein. Most recently, he has pretty much rewritten from the ground up Pinocchio and has done a stop motion Pinocchio for Netflix. So it looks like he's signed in with Netflix to do a whole bunch of stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see everything that he's doing as far as that goes. But again, it's Frankenstein is one of my favorite properties of all time. I reread it every couple of years, especially right around Halloween. It is a I'm not going to say guilty pleasure because I feel no guilt over it in any way, shape, and or form. It is one of the major pleasures in my life, and I really enjoy and love the property. There's so much that can be done with it. There's so much that is telling of the world we're in when Frankenstein is portrayed on screen. Another one of the greatest portrayals of Frankenstein in cinema, as far as I'm concerned, is when they use the character in Van Helsing. Wow, almost blanked on the name of the movie there, but yeah, it's the way he was done in Frankenstein. The way Frankenstein's creature was done in Van Helsing was, I think, one of the best I've ever seen. It's one of the ones that I feel are most spiritually like Mary Shelley's story. Then again, I'm a dude, 150 years later. So I might not be seeing things through the same lens that Mary Shelley saw things. And that's perfectly all right. That's something that happens. But I have ranted and rambled long enough. So I think it is nigh time for me to go ahead and say goodnight. And I will talk to you folks later. May your lives be filled with light, laughter, love, hope, and happiness. Hopefully you are able to make the world a little better and help build people up that are around you instead of tear people down. Take it light and God bless.